Glad you could join us. Now, the Supreme Court has put on hold its ruling on ownership of properties worth about 23 million Ghana cedis, which the state contends belongs to businessman Alfred Agbeshi-Woyome. Now, this follows an application made by lawyers for the businessman saying they had filed for a review of the court's December 3, 2018 decision that held that the highest court could determine whether the properties in question belong to Mr. Woyome or the defunct UT Bank. The AG had earmarked the 3 properties for sale, but receivers of defunct UT Bank rushed to court claiming ownership. The Deputy Attorney General Godfred Yeboah-Dame had alleged the receivers were colluding with the businessman to prevent the state from satisfying the debt. He insisted 9 months after the bank had allegedly bought the property, the businessman used same as collateral to secure a loan in excess of 9 million Ghana cedis from the bank. Now, Justice Benin had said today, January 21, to deliver his ruling. However, counsel for the businessman, Petrina Defia, however, told the court there was a pending application for review and that it was important for the court to hold on to its decision. Now, Justice Benin granted the request, saying it was in line with the practice of the court to halt proceedings in such instances to avoid conflicting judgments on the same matter. My colleague, Joseph Akable, joins me with more. Joseph, what kind of properties are there?
So there are 2 residential properties in question. They are located, 2 of them are located at Fasako Valley Estate. Then there is also a quarry that is located in the Volta region. So altogether, we are looking at 3 properties, and per the information from the Attorney General's office, we understand that the value is about 23 million cedis. Mind you, the amount of money the state hopes to retrieve from Mr. Woyome is 51.2 million cedis, which we know he has paid about 4 million cedis alone. So the state considers these properties to be very important. And it was at a point when they were orally examining Mr. Woyome, asking which properties belong to him and where those properties can be found. And that was when UT Bank made an application claiming that some of the properties in question belongs to the bank because the bank had purchased the properties from Mr. Woyome. And at that point, there was an objection that lawyers of Mr. Woyome raised that they think that the appropriate forum for that application to be determined should be at the High Court, so that in the event a UT Bank wins the claim against the businessman, an appeal could be filed at the higher court. And if it is held at the Supreme Court, that does not happen. But the court disagreed and thought that the Supreme Court could hear that matter. Now, today, the Supreme Court was supposed to give its ruling on who owns these 3 properties. Lawyers for the businessman then goes and informed the court that they had filed a review of this earlier court decision, and they think that it's important for the court to hold on to his decision until that is determined. So Justice Benin agreed and put his ruling on hold, Daniel.
Thank you, Joseph Akable, for that report. We'll move on to other stories. Now, if you're hoping to take a commercial flight to the Upper West region soon, you have to wait a little longer. Commercial flights scheduled for the route have not been given permits yet. Upper West Regional Minister Suleiman Al-Hassan disclosed this to journalists in Wa, saying that the 2 commercial flights were scheduled to start flying passengers from the Wa airport at the end of November last year. Now, they failed to get the needed permits from Italy to enable them operate in Ghana. Joy News' Upper West correspondent Rafiq Salam reports from Wa.
Many people in the Upper West region, especially the business class, were happy upon hearing this emphatic promise from the Aviation Minister, Joseph Kofi Adda, on November 13, 2018.
I see a very good structure, a nice building here. I think some modifications are in order for people to be able to recognize that it's an airport terminal building. Of course, it requires money. We'll work on that. That's what we're there for as ministers. We'll work with government and see what resources we can mobilize to do the modifications to make people know that it's a real airport, not just the central structure that exists. I'd like to hope that before 2 weeks ends, yes. I hope that by next week we shall have one.
It's been over 2 months since he made that promise, and there's no sign of that promise coming into fruition. The closest may be of an aircraft landed at the airport is Ghana Air Force plane, which has been used by government functionaries when they're coming in for official assignments. However, it appears the traveling public wishing to use commercial flights will have to wait a little longer. Upper West Regional Minister Alhaji Suleiman Al-Hassan had he said on the blog and were at a press soiree for the unfulfilled promise. He jumped to the defense of the aviation minister, Joseph Kofi Adda, with his explanation.
Commercial airlines needed to be given some permits, and those permits are normally gotten from Italy. That they are giving 2 types of permits, all the way from Italy. I don't know much. That's what he told me. And so far, when they applied, before they can go to any place, they have to take that permission from Italy, that the secretariat is in Italy. So they applied. 1 permit has come. We are still waiting on the other one. And he said that one is beyond Ghana. We can't go into any office and say, why are you sitting on this application? Why are you not acting on it? So he assured me that was the problem holding the whole thing back. But he said, hopefully, by the end of last year, that December ending, we would have gotten some information we haven't had. So we will all take it up, and that will be one of the issues we have to give serious attention to.
After giving out several dates on which commercial flights are to start operations at this airport, who turn out to be untrue, residents and the business class will however wait for the commercial flights to fly over their houses and shops. If not, any new date settled on will be regarded as one meant for the Marines. Reporting for Joy News, Rafiq Salam. Wow.
Away from that, First Lady Rebecca Akufo-Addo has launched the Make More Than a Mother campaign to increase advocacy and efforts against infertility in women. Launched in partnership with the Merck Foundation and Fertility Society of Ghana, the Make More Than a Mother campaign will focus mainly on preventive action against infertility. According to her, the worrying statistics that 1 in every 4 couples in developing countries suffer infertility depicts a high prevalence rate. Now, the First Lady will be co-hosting and co-chairing the 6th edition of the Merck Africa Asia Luminary in Accra later this year. Prince Apia has more in this report.
The event was to finalize discussions about the 6th edition of the annual conference, the Merck Africa Asia Luminary by the Merck Foundation. Launched in partnership with Ghana's Ministry of Health, Ghana will host the conference, and the First Lady Rebecca Akufo-Addo will co-chair the event scheduled for 29 to 30th October 2019. CEO of Merck Foundation, Dr. Rasha Kalej, together with the First Lady, held a special meeting with more than 100 Ghanaian infertile women to launch Make More Than a Mother campaign, which the First Lady Rebecca Akufo-Addo is an ambassador. During the 5th edition of the conference in Senegal last year, First Lady Rebecca Akufo-Addo explained this year's infertility campaign focus.
As this campaign is very close to my heart and very critical to us as African women. The evidence is that, we're told, that 1 in every 4 couples in developing countries suffer infertility. Considered wisdom says that prevention is better than cure. I'm therefore pleased that the main objectives of the Make More Than a Mother campaign is prevention. My office and the Rebecca Foundation will work closely with the Merck Foundation to empower women and adolescents, to raise awareness and educate them on how to prevent infertility. For this campaign, we will also be telling women to value themselves. Women are more than just mothers. They are productive members in society and should be respected and expect to be respected. Stigma is painful. Stigma is unjust. Stigma isolates people and makes them feel less than the rest of the population. We cannot continue to have a situation where women are blamed or stigmatized for infertility, even though 50% of infertility cases are due to men. That is not to say we must blame men or stigmatize them. Nobody needs to be blamed for such an emotionally painful condition as infertility. At the same time, we need to encourage men to speak up and discuss their infertility issues openly and know that fertility is a shared responsibility.
During the launch, many new programs were finalized and launched in partnership with the Ministry of Health. The event also saw the launch of the Make More Than a Mother Media Recognition Award.
We also launched the Make More Than a Mother Media Recognition Award for the Ghanaian media to encourage them to address the sensitive issue. I strongly believe in the critical role media plays to raise awareness about health and social issues.
They underscored a long-term partnership with the Rebecca Foundation and Ministry of Health to continue building healthcare capacity and train doctors in the field of diabetes, hypertension, fertility and cancer care.
Still live on Joy News today, my name is Daniel Daze. Still up ahead in the bulletin, Minority in Parliament calls for the arrest of Member of Parliament for Asin Central, Kennedy Ejapong, insisting he is responsible for the death of investigative journalist Ahmed Hussein Swale, who was shot and killed last week. And the fury of a jealous girlfriend. We tell you about that horrendous story. The woman is bitten off the lower lip of a 25-year-old hairdresser for accepting a lift from her boyfriend. That and more later in the bulletin. Stay with us. Thanks for staying with us. Now, 25-year-old Beatrice Ejapong has since Friday been struggling for her life at the Kwesimintim Government Hospital in the Western Region after she was assaulted by a nurse. The nurse, according to Beatrice, did not understand why her boyfriend gave her a lift, so she pursued her to the saloon where she works at Airport Ridge, a suburb of Sekondi Takrady, and bit off her entire lower lip after minutes of confrontation. Now, she was immediately rushed to the hospital, but doctors on duty said that cells in the bitten off part of the lip had died. Hence, they could not stitches to her mouth. Now, speaking to Joy News on her hospital bed, Beatrice Ejapong recounts how the nurse, whose name has only been given as Mummy, grabbed and chewed her lips.
I'm very sick, and it's been exactly a week that I came from hospital. I'm suffering from stomach ulcer, so I just came to the house. Then I started my work on Wednesday. Wednesday I was at the salon. I'm a hairdresser. I was at the salon. Because I'm having stomach ulcer, I'm not able to eat well. So Wednesday I drank tea. I've lost to Thursday too. Then Friday I was feeling very hungry, so I decided to go and buy food. So I told my mother that I'm going to buy rice at Kwesimintim. When I was going, then my stomach started paining me, so I put my head on the wall. Then a guy who stayed at my house was passing by, having a car. Then I saw him and told him, "Uncle, I'm very sick and I want to go and buy food at Kwesimintim." Then he said, "Oh, come, I'll take you there." Then I went to sit in the car. I went to Kwesimintim. I went to buy the food. He did not bring me back, so I walked by myself to the salon. When I entered the salon, I was very tired, so I put the food on the chair outside the salon. Then I sat on the chair. Then I ran my head down. Then someone opened our first gate, and she was like, "What did you go and do in my husband's car?" When I raised my head, then he used her hand to smash my face. Then suddenly I just stood on my feet. At the moment I stood, then she used her two hands to hold my hair. Then she used her teeth to bite my lower heart. Then I was feeling the pain, so I hold her head so that when she feels the pain, she can leave my lips. Then she put her teeth under my mouth.
Terrible story now. A nurse in charge at Kwesi Hospital, Belinda Hayford, explaining why they could not stitch the lip, said when the lady was brought to the hospital, the bitten flesh was not brought along. So doctors on duty sent for the bitten of flesh, but by the time it was brought, the cells were dead.
I think it's a case of assault. She was admitted on the 18th around 8:50 a.m. Yeah. And I reported to work this afternoon. And then I took over from my colleague nurse. And then, according to her, I think she had, there was a fight between her colleague friend, and then accidentally her lower lip was bitten off. That was so. Yes, it's very true. I even learned that when they brought her, the bitten off lip wasn't with her, so they have to send someone to go and search for it. You know, by then the cells might have died, so there is no way you can just suture it again. So for that one there, I don't know, maybe plastics can do that. Yeah, there could be a plastic surgery to fix it. She's on treatment now. She's on treatment. We are doing our best as health workers.
Now, the minority in Parliament says, based on Section 211 of the Criminal and Other Offences Act, Kennedy Ejapong should bear criminal responsibility in the death of Ahmed Swale. They want him arrested while demanding assurance from President Akufo-Addo that the country is safe. Head of Security Desk here at Joy News, Gifty Andapia, is attending that press briefing underway in Parliament and joins me with more. Now, Gifty, what more has the minority been saying?
Well, Daniel, let me just explain that the minority is referring to Section 20, Clause 1 of the Criminal and Other Offences Act 1960. And they're saying that if you read that, what it means is that even if someone incites anybody to cause harm to someone else, and the person does not even lift a finger, when harm comes to the person, first of all, the person has to be held responsible. And in this case, they're saying that even if nothing happens to the person, once the person says anything that is in contravention to this section of the Criminal and Other Offences Act, the person can be held for abetment. What they're calling for now is the arrest and prosecution of Kennedy Ejapong. But Daniel, quickly, I have the minority spokesperson on the Committee of Defence and Interior in Parliament. He chaired the press conference today, Mr. Agaga. Let me quickly talk to him briefly. Mr. Agaga, you keep saying at your press conference that you cannot say for a fact that Mr. Kennedy Ejapong is behind the killing of this gentleman, but then you're saying that he should bear criminal responsibility. How does that play out?
Absolutely. And when we said Kennedy Ejapong bear criminal responsibility, we referenced Section 21 of the Criminal and Other Offences Act 29, 1960, to demonstrate that when he made the utterances on TV, his own TV, Net2, and invited the public to cause harm to the person of Ahmed Swale and Anas Arimiyao Anas, clearly he had committed the offense of abetment. Remember that he flashed pictures on TV, and those were supposed to be the pictures of Ahmed Swale, and even made further disclosures regarding the location of his residence, etc. We're saying that conduct in itself amounts to abetment and the law. And so whether or not Kennedy Ejapong's complicity in the murder of Ahmed Swale can be established through investigation or not, we're saying that as a preliminary measure, he ought to have been arrested immediately and dealt with for the offense of abetment, pending the outcome of investigations into the murder itself. He may or may not be complicit. I can't say for a fact, because investigations are supposed to be conducted in a very professional way. So I wouldn't preempt the outcome of those investigations. But I'm saying that the evidence relative to the commission of the offense of abetment was so overwhelming that he ought to have been taken on for that offense.
Okay. You're also saying that you're going to drag him before the Privileges Committee. People have actually said that. Well, we've seen how the Privileges Committee meetings and reports go. Really, what do you expect from the Privileges Committee inviting Kennedy Agyapong over this matter?
You see, the inaction, and let me use the collective of Parliament itself, through the actions of the majority, is what has emboldened Kennedy Agyapong to do what he has done. Remember that the same Kennedy Agyapong became a person of interest before the Privileges Committee.
And that case hasn't yet been, how did it go?
Absolutely, because the majority is simply not cooperating well enough because they think it's one of their own. That is unfortunate. And that is why we found it necessary to hold this press conference to demonstrate that the inaction on the part of Parliament itself, through the conduct of the majority, which thinks that Kennedy Agyapong ought to be shielded at all costs because it's one of their own, is what has led to this particular unfortunate incident.
So that is the Speaker of Minority spokesperson on the Committee of Defense and the Interior, James Agalga, they're speaking. Now, Daniel, the other thing that they've been talking about is that they said that they accused the security agencies of looking on whilst Mr. Agyapong traveled to where they say Dubai. They believe that he'll be moving on from there to another place. And they say that in all of government has been silent. So one of the demands they're making is for government, is for the president to speak about it, to give Ghanaians what they're calling assurance that the country is safe.
Thank you very much, Gifty and Pia, for that update. Now, she was speaking, there's James Agalga, who is the ranking member of the Defense and Interior Committees of Parliament, James Agalga. Now, relatives and sympathizers of the stolen baby's mother at Kwame Nchi slum near Mbrom in Kumasi are excited as the return of the child following the arrest of the thief. 21-year-old Patience Anane was picked up at Bantama near Kwame Danso in the Bono Ahafo region, barely 24 hours after a Joy News report on the incident. She had disappeared with a 17-year-old Abena Kubile's 6-month-old child put in her care temporarily by the ice water seller. Now, police say collaborative efforts by residents and the police led to the arrest. Nane Aljima was at the slum to witness the return of the baby to her mother.
A happy slum, I choose to call it. Many have gathered here to witness the return of baby Ramsey, as they choose to call him. As you see in the background, everybody wants to have a touch or a feel of baby Ramsey, to feel whether he is real. They are full of praise for the multimedia group for our support in helping find the baby. Fulera Anobga is one of the people who were devastated by disappearance of Patience with the baby the last time I was here. She is now full of praise for Joy News and other multimedia platforms for extensive reportage on the incident. She says, "We are grateful to God and to you for telling our story on TV and on radio as well. I am too happy. I sell rice here and will be giving out some for free today."
Because I am a dad. I am a dad.
Abena Kubile's son was allegedly kidnapped by a friend. She entrusted the boy in her care. Abena had been hopeful of finding her son in the midst of uncertainty over his whereabouts. She manages few words as her face beamed with smiles. She says, "I am very happy and thankful to you for your help in finding my son." Other residents who are equally happy about the return of the baby believe security in the area should be enhanced. There are lots of people working and staying here, but they have no leadership. I think some leaders should be selected and introduced to security men here so we know how to go about things in the future.
I will advise the women here not to give their children to anybody. She trusted her, and that's the reason she gave the child to her. But she took the boy away. Joy News report following a police press release had helped facilitate investigations for arrest of the suspects. Here is Ashanti Region PRO, ASP Godwin Ahianyo.
We mentioned that the child we suspect might have been stolen, and that we're calling on the general public to help us trace the whereabouts of the alleged thief and the baby. And through media reports on Joy News and other FM stations, with the assistance of these individuals that I mentioned, the suspect was picked up.
Nana Ojima reporting.
Well, some good news there, but if you want free rice today, you know where to go. Wonder what that means for her business, though. Speaking of which, Daryl will be joining us with the latest in business shortly. He'll be telling you how the aviation ministry is to embark on a roadshow to close a deal with investors for home-based carrier. Daryl comes after this.